Hello everyone, welcome to the annual energy update or forecast for 2023, and a couple of things that I just want to say right off the bat. Firstly, welcome and thank you for being here. I don't know about you, but I tend to get very nostalgic around this time of year, and I tend to find myself reflecting and looking back or looking ahead. So I know some of you may have just stumbled onto this broadcast, or perhaps you found my energy updates, my monthly energy updates this month, and that's why you're here. But I just wanted to say a special hello to those of you who have been with me for a very long time and the work that I do. Perhaps you intermittently watch the energy updates, but I've been doing those monthly updates now for, it will be 11 years this year. And I've been putting my work out there online in one way or another since 2005. So I was just reflecting how the origin of me doing an annual update like this has changed over the years. And there was a period where I would put these annual videos out and work with creatives to do that. And the origin of kind of this event and my Rebirth course, which we're about to do our 6th one of those in January, was an event called Winter Light. So I was just taken back in time to 2010 and 2009 when I would go to Holland and to Norway and do winter-focused events in person in the room with people. And they were beautiful and wonderful, and now many thousands of you tune into this thanks to the ability that we have with the internet to connect. So I was just having a moment before we started this of like, wow, it's been quite a journey of doing this work, showing up for this work, and the only reason I show up for this work is because of all of you who tune in. If you didn't show up, then I wouldn't be showing up either. So thank you to those of you who've been with me a long time. I've been having various messages from you over the last year or so, and it's always really heartening, not just because of that long relationship that some of us have had, even though we may never have met in person, but just the evolution that we've all gone through and the way that we've all changed in that time. I think of those of us who were spiritual seekers or spiritual students 25 years ago, how different the world is now, how different the energetics on the planet are, and the level of awareness on the planet. More and more people than ever before are tapping into parts of themselves, even if they don't go towards spirituality or metaphysics, just emotional awareness, the awareness of our mental health, the awareness of internal parts of ourselves that traditionally our society hasn't encouraged us to look at or look into. That has gone through the roof now. More and more people are beginning to be curious about what's going on inside them. So I know that I have a very specific role to play for a certain group of people, but it's just heartening to see that global conversation begin to rise. And the last thing I'll say before I dive into some of the messages I was getting for 2023 is I personally have noticed a real change in the last, I could say the last couple of years, but even as recently as the last few months, the work I'm doing with my own guides, much of which informs what I do in my work, and I will be channeling them directly today in the second half of this broadcast, it's shifted, and they are focusing us a lot more, myself included, and then the work that I do for those of you who are here, on higher consciousness and the importance of higher consciousness. That's not the same as spiritual bypassing. That's not the same as putting your head in the sand and pretending everything's fine in the world, when clearly there are all kinds of areas of chaos, distress, difficulty in the world. No, but there is a movement that I'm noticing coming through them, while not shying away from some of the difficulties that we're in or that we're facing. There is this movement towards reminding us that we can all create from a higher consciousness place, and we can live in higher consciousness more of the time. And I know that those words can be word salad to some people, like what is higher consciousness? Well, from my perspective, higher consciousness is connected living. It's feeling connected to your life, to people in the world, to nature, to your heart, to what lights you up. And science is beginning to catch up and show the effects of our energy field and our vibrations on people, places, and things. So I've always said that it's that person that you see in a crowded room and you can't take your eyes off them because there's a light inside them that seems to be coming from inside. And I think sometimes the myth is that they're like that 24/7. And not many of us maintain a fixed state 24/7. But you know when you see someone who has access to that, they are connected to something. There is a higher consciousness moving through them. And the message these guys were literally giving me this morning as I was beginning to just tune in and get some of the messages and themes for today is higher consciousness is where we're going. And it doesn't mean that everything that we're seeing today has to disappear. You know, there are ways of looking at it. You can think about being awake, being more conscious, being more connected in your life now than perhaps you were 10 years ago. But you might still do some of the exact same activities or have some of the exact same relationships in your life. You just feel them differently. You just experience them differently. So I think sometimes we can overcomplicate things like higher consciousness, dimensions. It can all seem very abstract and far away from us. But the truth is, and this is what the Z's, my guides, keep saying, light will find you from inside. And it's our inner workings that can completely change the way we see and feel the world around us. So when I talk about higher consciousness, for me, that's really where I'm coming from. It's not about your whole life having to change in the external. It's more about your way of relating to your external world changing from the inside. And that's really what the Z's have been focusing on lately. We did a big course called Initiation, and it was pretty powerful. And they have been really focusing on letting this light, this consciousness come from inside your body out into the world. So I know that many of you are already signed up to do Rebirth with me in January, and I will definitely be channeling the Z's for certain sections of that course. But I wanted to take this opportunity today to do something for you that's completely free, that you can access, and hopefully it can help enhance or enrich your 2023. I will say it was slightly different than I expected, which is not surprising, I guess, these days. But, you know, I was expecting to be given a list of themes, much like I'm given a list of themes for my monthly energy updates. But it was a little different. So I got 6 messages from the Z's, and they each start with one word. And for those of you who are watching this live now, I know there's many of you here live, hello. We will put this list of themes underneath the video, but they won't be there right now. So, because they're very fresh, hot off the press, like 20 minutes ago. So my team are going to not only place these themes underneath the replay, but for those of you who are watching this in the future, they will already be there. And they're really just headline reminders of what I'm going to elaborate on in this broadcast. So I'm going to go through those 6. Then we're going to have the Z's channel a message about 2023, which is completely unknown to me because that's the nature of channeling. So, first word that I was given for 2023 was allow. And in fact, I'm going to just quickly go through the 6 words I was given. So, allow, create, release, discern, love, and open. So allow, create, release, discern, love, and open. Kind of simple to remember. Seems like a good blueprint for daily living. But I'll explain what came through with each of these areas in turn. So, allow for 2023. Allow the changes and create the future as these changes happen in and around you. Allow yourself to recognize your place in creating the future rather than being immobilized by events around you. So interesting, allow the changes can have a tricky energy for some of us, because there are lots of opinions right now, understandably, about certain changes we're seeing in our world that we either don't agree with or we don't think are good for the planet or where we're going as a people. But the message in this is you will see changes going on around you, some of which you will agree with and support, some of which you will not. I mean, the internet's a great example of this. There are many ways right now that the internet is problematic or is having problematic areas. And yet, for someone like me who grew up, really in the era, my first 20, 25 years of my life, the internet was very, very fledgling in my early 20s. It really wasn't what it is today. So I would have to go and find my spiritual books only in a bookstore, go to my spiritual teaching in an online and in a live workshop. So there's a lot that the internet has done for us. And like all of life, there are still areas that need improvement, vigilance, tweaking. But the reason this message is so important is, and I see this and feel this in the air a lot, there is a reaction that we can have to changes that are going on around us that only immobilize us or only put us into fear. Now, 2020 and 2021 are a great example of this. I don't know about you, I knew many people who were immobilized during that time and deeply, deeply fearful. And I'm not saying that all of us might not have had some fear focused on one area of what went on in 2020 or another. But I did see and encounter certain people who were purely immobilized, purely in fear. And that's not a nice place to be. It's not a good place to live. It's a place that shuts down your ability to be a present soul and create. So the message around this, allow the changes and create the future as the changes happen in and around you, is really important, because change is the only constant for us as humans. We're changing all the time biologically. We're going to change emotionally, psychologically, depending on what we go through in life. There are all these surprises in life that happen. And so it's interesting, isn't it, that some part of our brain thinks it's all fixed or thinks it's all controllable, and it isn't. But what I have noticed as a tendency on our planet, particularly this last few years, is there is a fan the flames kind of energy, whether that's coming from sources in media, sources in power, that are essentially immobilizing people into fear. And we have to do the opposite of that. We have to very consciously create our lives in and around all of the changes that we're going through. That's survival. So survival and evolution require creational energy. So this allow word, if you notice it triggering you a little bit, if you notice the part of you going, well, I don't want to allow what's going on right now, I'm mad about it, I'm upset about it, okay, great, there's a clue. You have to investigate that a little bit. You have to let some of those feelings move through you. Perhaps you're very specifically triggered by certain world events because they relate to personal trauma or personal history for you. Perhaps it's a past life thing. You may have come to this planet this time to work on justice, and so you are a justice warrior, and finding that balance point for you where your justice warriorship is something that feels creational and open rather than reactive or wounded, is a really fine line. And so for all of us, allowing the changes that we're seeing in the world to happen and creating the future as they do. It's not that things that we see going on around us should shut us down from being alive. One of my favorite things to throw at people in my workshops, and it's something I throw at myself too, is there's nothing that can get you more into the present than thinking to yourself, oh wow, what if I only had 2 weeks left to live? And I knew I only had 2 weeks left to live. All of us would behave quite differently if we knew that was our time limit versus the way we might be behaving today, because we're thinking, well, in 3 years I might do that, or in 5 years, if I can do X, Y, and Z, I might do that. So really, this is a message about living today as much as you can and recognizing your power, your creational power. So allow the changes to happen around you and create your future, even as they do. Some of those changes might be really challenging for you. Some of those changes might be the exact changes you need to let things click into place. So that's allow. Create, we just touched on that in the last theme, but be a protector of joy and love on the planet by being a creator of it. These energies diffuse so much. So be a protector of joy and love on the planet by being a creator of it, because these energies diffuse so much. So the power of joy in your life, whether you're bringing it to other people, whether it's something you're experiencing, maybe for you, that's how you experience joy. You're one of those people who's wired to bring it to others, and that's how you experience it. You create a ripple effect of joy in the world, and that's a lovely way to experience joy. But also love. Love is an incredible connective force. It's when we feel from our heart toward another being or another person or a place, and we allow our heart to extend itself to connect with something other than us, our thoughts, our world. So this is interesting language, and this language was given to me, by the way. Be a protector of joy and love on the planet by being a creator of it. So the way that we manage to protect the energies of joy and love is to become them as much and as often as we can. These energies diffuse so much. They are healing forces, joy and love. I mean, I don't know about you, I can think of so many times in my life where literally someone's love or someone's support or someone's passion and joy was like a wake-up call for me, or it was the hand that leant down and pulled me out of whatever I was in. Love is a contagious energy if we allow it to be, if we allow ourselves to keep opening to it. So interesting that this has been given with the word create, because one of the things that the Z's have been quite, I don't want to say tough about, but they've definitely been quite bolshy in the last couple of years. Quite persistent, I should say, for those of you who don't know what bolshy is. They've been quite persistent about reminding us to create joy and love on the planet, that that's what we're here to do. And they say that too many of you dismiss it, or you hear us say something like that and you get annoyed because you want to say, well, I'm in too much suffering to create joy or love, or the world is too full of suffering to create joy or love. And the Z's will say, well, then that's where you're focused. They'll say, then you will continue to replay joy, suffering and difficulty, because you are only willing to see suffering. And that's a really good indicator for you. I think for any of us who've had a really, really tough time at moments in our life where things don't look good. You know, it's like when you're really, really depressed. The last thing you want to hear is someone telling you to access joy and love, because you are in depression. You are wearing the energy of depression, and especially for people who that comes up for you as a chemical imbalance, not just energetic imbalance or a life event imbalance. That's something that you're biologically dealing with. You know better than most that cloud can set in and it can be very difficult. But then many of the people I know who deal with it in an ongoing way, they will say, there are certain things I know that help me. And if I'm down in the hole, there are certain things I need to do. There are certain things I take. There are certain actions. There are certain people. There are ways that they have learned to help themselves in that difficult moment. So it's really important, if suffering has become an identity for you, either because you're tracking it everywhere in the world, or it's something you feel consumed by in yourself and that doesn't feel good to you. Strange thing for me to say, but there are some people on the planet who are warriors on behalf of suffering, and so it's not necessarily that it feels bad to them, it's just that they are here wired to work with the energy of suffering in a way that many others aren't. So it's about knowing, where is my focus? When did I last create joy or love? When did I last feel joy or love? I'm mad, why do I have to create it? Why can't someone bring it to me? Notice that, because it's all in us, and who we can create ourselves to be and how we figure out what we need is crucial. And that's how we maintain higher consciousness. Higher consciousness, like I said, is not a fixed point. It's not a 24/7 feeling. It's more about creating a new baseline for yourself. And so joy and love are really important, and they can break the spell of disconnection in the most powerful way. It's why so many of you who volunteer your energy, your time, your love, your joy out into the world, you feel good because you're spreading an energy that is needed, and you see the effect on others. These energies diffuse so much. They are able to cut through as a transformational energy. So being a protector of joy and love on the planet is a really important mission, and one that it's very easy for us to dismiss. But those are vital energies, they're creational energies. So how can you create more joy and love in the year ahead for yourself? And start with yourself if the world feels overwhelming, and recognize, what am I doing on a weekly basis that brings me joy or that makes me feel connected to love? Okay. The third theme is release. So this one relates a little bit more to the world at large. Waves of change and low vibration control will continue to rear its head. It will not be able to fully take hold on the planet and limit human consciousness and sovereignty, but it will continue to try. Notice, this will show up both collectively and personally. So for example, I don't need to go into details about some of the waves of low vibration control that we've seen in the last few years. You always know, because you can tell that the person who is speaking about their agenda or what they would like to do, they're speaking from outside their heart, or their heart is not there. The Z's have said a lot that heart energy is going to be the currency of the future. And we're now at this turning point on the planet where it's going to get incredibly clear who is working from their heart and who is working to either try and control others or groups of people in a way that wouldn't be good for that group or that planet or country or whatever it is that you want to pull apart in what I'm saying here. So waves of change and low vibration control will continue to rear its head. It will not be able to fully take hold on the planet and limit human consciousness and sovereignty, but it will continue to try. So again, this takes me back to the first theme, which is, we can worry about that or overly focus on that, or we can recognize that the way that we counterbalance all of that is to continue to embody higher consciousness, to speak our truth, to help other people know what heartfelt truth sounds and feels like, so they can see the difference. It's a little akin to, I don't know if any of you have ever been in a controlling relationship, or you could call it a toxic relationship or an unhealthy dynamic. It takes time to really feel the negative effects of what that person wants to do to you or instill to you. And sometimes all your friends might be going, this doesn't look good, I'm not sure about this. And you fight them, you push them away, because some part of your soul knows you need to go down this dark path with this person, this group. There's a learning in it for you, and you're only going to learn it the hard way. And I say that as someone who's experienced that a couple of times. And if you think of it globally in that way, more and more people are beginning to question some of the stuff that we're seeing play out, which is great. And certain acts of justice and rebalancing are slowly beginning to permeate. There are certain things that perhaps happened 2 or 3 years ago that are beginning to come to the light a bit more and be a bit more exposed than they were. So release is a huge part of this for us. If we hook out of the story of it for a minute, we can ask ourselves, how many lifetimes have we gone through this kind of stuff as human beings? And are we replaying it now so that we can release it? And the answer is yes. Doesn't mean it happens overnight, doesn't mean it happens in a way that you would like it to. It would be much nicer if we didn't have to go through some of this. But what these guys have said a lot to me is that we're literally going through a bit of an energetic battle on the planet. And that doesn't mean that you can't access joy, access love, honor your own consciousness and how you are engaging with the world, because that's your power, that's your sovereignty. No matter what situation you are in, the inner world is a place that is yours and yours alone. So one of the things with these low vibration acts of control is that we are in a bit of a battleground time, and we have been for 4 or 5 years with all of it. It's been playing out for quite a while now. It's just surfacing. So don't let that immobilize you, but also know that it's going to keep rearing its head from time to time, because it's trying to, shall we say, take us back in time in a way that is not going to be possible ultimately. But it doesn't mean there aren't going to be friction points and difficult moments and battle moments as you go through it. So the final piece of this is this will show up both collectively and personally, because it's very easy to just focus out there and go, oh, well, look at that that's happening, and look at this that's happening, and it all has a ripple effect to us. So where are we letting go of waves of change and low vibration control in ourselves? Either things that we're trying to control in ourselves or in our life that we no longer need to. We have to let go of that control in order to allow more in. Or equally, are we going through that in personal relationship dynamics, and are we healing that? Because that's what's going on as a world. So I don't mean for that to sound abstract, but I'm literally being guided with the words to say here that will help you perhaps find a different relationship to that release energy and pattern that we're in. This next one relates to this in some ways. Discern. Discern. Know which fight is true and which fight is reaction. This is how wisdom becomes embodied. Old reactions will feel like action replays of old wounds or events from your life. There is a difference between embodying wisdom and embodying a wounded reaction. Wisdom wins in the new consciousness. So wisdom wins in the new consciousness. So wisdom in the new consciousness is not coming from our programmed mind, the things we've been told to do, the things we've been told, the ways we've been told to behave. It's a much more energetically connected, you're plugged in basically to everything. And therefore the information is not locked into you, and you're not action replaying things in a small way. So know which fight is true and which fight is reaction. So old reactions will feel like action replays of old wounds or events from your life. Let's say you had a bully in your life when you were young, and you never really got to release what you experienced with that bully, and you never really got to a place where the imprint that that bully gave you got to leave your body, or you had a satisfying resolution. There are two ways of looking at it. You might now be the champion for other people who you see get bullied, and that might be really great for you. It might be the fuel for the fire that you need to go out there and go, I am going to stand up against bullies. But there's a fine line. There's a fine line between doing that in a truly connected, effective way, or doing it as an action replay of an old wound. So in feeling, it's quite distinct. You'll know because your thoughts will go a little more dysregulated, your emotions will flood. So if you're in the presence of a bully and you're like, right, I'm going to fight that person, ask yourself, okay, is this the state that I'm normally in? Is this my higher consciousness state? Or is this an old trauma? Is this an old action replay? Nothing wrong with having it. Nothing wrong with letting it move through your body, but really important to discern and notice it and go, oh, this doesn't feel very balanced. So if I'm coming from an imbalanced place, am I really going to be able to bring balance by winning the fight? Because then I'm still in a fight. But equally, know which fight is true and which fight is reaction. You might be here as someone who is here to work on behalf of justice. And so there's nothing wrong with those reactions that might be your inner impetus, but you don't want to carry that wounded energy into the engagement. That's when you see war playing out between people. And God, you know, war is one of our biggest indoctrinated issues on the planet. If you ask most people if they want war, they don't. So it's very interesting that we have it embedded here in the power structures and in the leadership structures. And that's going to go through a huge overhaul in the coming decades. And we're already seeing some of that now. That might not be something you personally can change. That might feel bigger than your pay grade right now or your mission. But The energy of war inside ourselves, that's something we have to work on, and then we do affect the vibration of the energy on the planet. It's why so many more people are standing against this idea of war and wanting to be connected in a no borders way to more people. There are more and more people who are feeling the absurdity of it all in that way. So discern simply means know which fight is true and which fight is reaction. That's how you become a higher consciousness. You let go of some of those lower vibrations inside you. And we all have action replays. It's not better to have none. We're all going to have to work through some of the stuff that we came here to work through, some of the stuff that we've experienced. The difference is how we work with it and pay attention to it. So there is a difference between embodying wisdom, the wisdom to know that this bullying activity that you're seeing in front of you, okay, I need to harmonize this. I need to do what I can. I think I can help this, but I'm going to do it from a grounded, centered place rather than a reactive, I'm playing out a childhood wound place. Wisdom wins in the new consciousness because wisdom is connected to everything. Wisdom is not in our mind. It's not something we learnt at school. Wisdom is a full body experience. So that's where our discernment can lead us. As we practice discernment, we allow in wisdom. Okay, love. Love this incredible moment-to-moment life we get to live. And commit to creating love through your focus. It's very easy for any of us to, find the thing that distressed you this morning or the thing that you heard about what's going on in the world, and there's nothing wrong with being connected to any of that, but the problem comes when our narratives about the planet and our narratives about the world are being fed to us rather than coming through us, and especially if they skew toward the negative. You'll notice how media uses sensationalism, drama, low vibrations to hook our attention. Not saying all media does that. There are some wonderful, more new consciousness journalists out there bringing that through, and some establishments. But this is the time where more and more people are beginning to see the manipulation game that plays out. So love this incredible moment-to-moment life we get to live, and commit to creating love through your focus. People on their deathbed don't tend to bemoan the state of the planet or the things that are bugging them about the planet. Most people on their deathbed want to give some focus to the people they loved, the activities they loved, the beauty of the planet, the fact that they realize that this human that they have been in this lifetime is about to end its journey, about to end its experience. So they want to connect. They go, oh my God, I'm allowing in all the feelings that perhaps my programming, my culture, my conditioning didn't allow me to let in while I was, as far as I was concerned, still playing the game for quite a while. So love, how can you bring more love into your life or into the lives of others? It's an incredible force. We've touched on it in an earlier theme. So love this incredible moment-to-moment life we get to live, and commit to creating love through your focus. It does not mean you have to be happy or in love all day long. We're human, we're on a very varied planet, it's going to go up and down. But if we don't hold a focus around love, or a consciousness or an intention around love, we're leaving it up to chance, and we're leaving it up to the vibration of the world at large where love is concerned. I don't know about you, I see the evidence of love mostly in other people, animals, nature. I don't see it that much in popular culture. Trust me, there are moments, there are people, and I'm not dissing popular culture, I'm just saying there is a kind of control level that plays out for us in the wider world. There's a certain level of consciousness that we're allowed to see, and sometimes it has really high peaks. Much of the time it's kind of dragging us down, and we don't even notice it. So make love something that you foster, cultivate, seek, generate, and really honor in the year to come. Lastly, open. Open. We often fear becoming the next level or version of ourselves and our consciousness. Now is no longer the time for that. We are all becoming new at a planetary level. So we often fear becoming the next level or version of ourselves and our consciousness. Now is no longer the time for that. We are all becoming new at a planetary level. It's funny, I mentioned to you all at the beginning of this that I've been nostalgic and reflective lately, which I'm often like that in December and the end of the year, as I think many of us are. Grief is a thing, grief is a thing for all of us. It's like people you miss, or times you miss, or memories that come up in you, and you're like, I miss that. And I think sometimes the weight that we can feel around grief, sometimes it's very true, and sometimes it's not something that we should allow to hold us down. Sure, if you're in the grips of new grief in your life, if you've just lost a loved one, or if a very difficult event happened for you, there's going to be a period of time where grief might be the outfit that you're wearing. But if you're still wearing the outfit 3 years later to such an extent, and it's still as tight as it was, something's off. There's a part of you that hasn't been able to reconnect to your soul, to life. There's a part of you that's stuck in the death realms rather than the life realms. That can happen for a lot of people. So underneath this desire for change that often so many of us who are attracted to personal development or spirituality or transformational tools and metaphysics, there is this hilarious truth underneath it all, which the Z's are always saying. You say you crave change and you want change, but you also as humans are intrinsically fearing change. Because we kind of want to hold on to the things that we like or the way that things are. And of course, we can't. If you live a long life as a human, you're going to end up in a very different body, a very different consciousness, a very different energy than you begin as a newborn. So change is a constant. And it's interesting, open to the next level or version of ourselves and our consciousness. Now is no longer the time for fearing that. We are all becoming new at a planetary level. So for you personally, you don't necessarily have to know what that looks like today or be able to take pen to paper and figure that out. But is there a part of you that can feel this new level of consciousness, this new level of connection that wants to come in? Maybe you can just sense it just here around your body. Maybe it feels lovely. Maybe you're like, oh, that feels like a warm blanket. Oh, I quite like that feeling. I feel a lot of light. Some of you might be like, oh my God, what is that? I'm not sure. Hang on a second. And it's okay. Whatever your reaction is your reaction. So we trust it. We trust your reaction. We trust where you are. We trust where any of us are. And I'm somebody who still to this day has to work to befriend some of the emotions I don't enjoy as much. But go back 25 years ago, I was very successfully running from a lot of them and judging them and thinking, oh, that's not very. And actually, the more I learn to allow this energy movement through me that might show up as thoughts or feelings, or the more I learn to open and allow it through, the more I change in ways that feel good to me and allow in a new consciousness. But it's always hard to allow in more. So I'll throw a couple of examples at you. What are you scared to allow in right now, but you want it? See if any answer comes. What do you want to bring into your life right now, but you also acknowledge it's a bit scary? See if anything comes. So this precipice that so many of us stand on, oh, I want to call that in, but there's also this part of my body and my identity and my fear that's not sure. This is a really good time to open to what's possible and to the next version of you. None of us know who the next version of you is going to be. I don't fully know who the next version of me is going to be, but I have feelings about it, I have senses about it, and I'm often wanting to create certain things in my life, not from a mental place, but because my soul knows in order for me to experience the next level of love, I'm going to need a few things in place that will either release me from past non-love in myself or will invite me into an experience of greater love. So that thing that we fear and we want in equal measure is usually an enormous catalyst in our life. It's going to change us, it's going to change our world, it's going to really shift things. So before I go to the Z's and channel, and this is the last theme, I want you to just consider what new thing or state of being or element could really bring change to my life in 2023 in a positive way. What new thing or state of being or element could come into your life in 2023 and bring change to it in a really positive, desirable way. And now as you sit with that for a second, see how it makes your heart feel, this center of your chest, heart chakra. Does it feel warm, exciting? Does it feel a little unnerving? This is the moment, the part of you that needs to remember open. When it's the right time, when it's the right circumstance, open. Some of you might be dealing with super big trauma stuff right now, and so opening might not be the easiest thing for you to do, and it might not be the wisest thing for you to do. You might be having to protect yourself or hold yourself very gently because you're working through something deep. So you can just kind of lightly think about this idea of opening because you don't want to push yourself through your process. But for those of you who aren't in that state or aren't dealing with something like that, you know, what could you open to next year that would really change your life and bring in a whole new element? And are you willing to allow it in? So for me, it really is this new level of consciousness that I can feel coming in. I can see it coming in people around me, and the way that I'm noticing language is changing in our culture. Doesn't mean everybody, by the way. There'll be a whole bunch of people who are in direct opposition to that. But I'm tracking how people are speaking about things and going, wow, people did not speak about these kinds of things like this even a decade ago. So the new level of consciousness that you are becoming and that you want to be is what comes next. So I'm just going to go through the key words again, the 6 key words that we have here. So we started with allow, then we went to create, then we went to release, then we went to discern, then we went to love, then we went to open. So like I said, these sentences I read out, we're going to put them underneath the video. They won't be there now if you're live. They will be there within, the next 12 hours or so. So we will put that under there, and I'm being told that there are 9,000 of you live right now. So hello to everyone wherever you are in the world. And what we're going to do, because I want to channel, I'm going to just reset myself a little bit, have a glass of water. We have a couple of minutes to give you a sense of Rebirth, which is the course. This will be my 6th year of doing Rebirth. It's really a space where I can hold energy and strategy and channeling for you around your year ahead. So it's an infusion of information from the Z's about the year ahead. It's me helping you chart your path a little bit and figure out how to create the life that you're looking to create in 2023, plus lots of other bonus elements and guests. But while I just take a moment here, I'm just going to play you a trailer of what Rebirth is. So this is a good moment to check out Rebirth, or if you need to use the bathroom or grab yourself a drink, and I'll be back in 2 minutes, and we are going to hear from the Z's, who are my guides. So by the time you come back after the Rebirth trailer, I will have my eyes closed, I will be ready to go, and we will see what my guides want to directly say to you about the year ahead. I hope you can join me for Rebirth 2023. This will be our 6th year of holding a Rebirth experience in January. And it's something that I originally created because I recognize that the end of a year and the beginning of a new year is a very potent and fertile time for us to let go of what we have walked through and call in what we would like to call in for the year ahead. So as well as practical and grounded guidance around how we do that and open to that, I also bring in my guides who will be very specifically working with the energy of 2023 and what we are about to walk into to help us center, ground, but also call in what it is that we want to next create. The rebirth experience is very multidimensional. We have everything from qigong to dance to channeling to grounded teaching to energy exercises to meditations to music. We try and bring you as much as we possibly can in as rounded an experience as we can offer so that you can really immerse yourself in one of the themes for this year, which is renew your soul. It's something we all need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So a huge focus of Rebirth this year is renew your soul, and the other side of it is chart your path, helping you to map out the year that you're walking into with intention, with clarity, and with joy. So we look forward to you joining us for Rebirth 2023, where you can renew your soul and chart your path. Good. Welcome. It is always so interesting how anticipatory you as a humanity get around this time of year, especially as you are moving into a new calendar year. And of course, what we can tell you is that time as you know it does not exist. From our perspective, linear time does not exist the way you experience it. However, with that said, we will tell you that time, linear time that you operate within and are aware of, is a wonderful marker point for your evolution. So even though we would say to you that time is far more circular than you have been led to believe, rather than linear, the very act of tracking linear time, of noticing linear time, of moving through the years is very important for all of you because it has the opportunity to make you very present. You can start to notice change in action. So many of you will get very nostalgic in a grief-based way when you think about the past. And we would say to you, the past is still inside you. In fact, you have become who you are because of your past. You have become who you are as an individual on the earth because of the people that you have loved who are no longer here. They are still in operation through you. They literally had a, shall we say, chemical reaction with you in the time that you knew them. So this applies to loved ones who have left the planet physically, who have left their body. This applies to perhaps people you have had relationships with that either did not end easily or well, or there was no opportunity to reconcile. They had an effect on you at a molecular level. They infused and affected who you are today. So of course you have memories of these people, these beings. And when you go into these memories, what you are actually doing is going deeply inside yourself. Some of you might find that strange to think about, but if you are honest with yourself, you are going deeply into a memory that you have selected about the event, about the person, and it is true that you do, shall we say, recolor your memories. You give yourself slightly different perspective on it than perhaps it played out at the time, because that is the part of you that you took away from the event that you are now action replaying. So, for example, it is not uncommon for you to have a, shall we say, loving experience with somebody in your life, and yet while you are feeling wounded by the dramatic way it ended, all of a sudden you recast that person as a villain. You forget all of the times where love and connection was present, and you recast that person as a villain. Perhaps you are even telling all your friends what an awful person this person is, and they are a little confused, for they remember you telling them how much you loved this person before. This goes on all the time on Earth. You use focal points as ways that you remember, navigate, recall yourself, and connect to yourself. So, imagine if you decided to create a whole new focal point for your future. Imagine if you were willing to become the most illuminated version of yourself that you have ever been. or ever seen. And one of the things that comes up for so many of you when you think about becoming a more expanded or illuminated version of yourself, how will this affect my life? How will this affect the people around me? Well, guess what? It needn't affect any of them or any of it as much as you fear. In fact, what if the circumstances in your life are not what needed to change, but your perspective and way of connecting to the circumstances? Now, those of you who just got very mad at us for saying such a thing because you do not want to carry on being in a relationship with this person that you are mad at, well, then this would be a good year to take action on that. Rather than to get mad at somebody suggesting it's your inner perspective that needs to change, maybe this is time for you to recognize you have been sat very uncomfortably in a relationship for a very long time. When are you going to take action and recognize your life is precious? Your love is precious. Your time is precious. And yet you have cast yourself into a relationship where none of those things are being honored. Your love, time, your life are not being honored in this relationship. Otherwise, you would not feel so aggrieved at this other person. So, we are not saying that to separate a friendship or separate a romantic relationship, or for some of you, the greatest challenge is separating from family members that you are related to and yet you cannot find common ground with. We are not saying any of that is easy. And we are not saying that it should be done in a cavalier, unfeeling way if you can help it. But equally, we are not saying you should be contorting yourself inside in order to stay in something so as to not upset others, so as to not upset the apple cart. You are here to upset the apple cart. You did not come here as actors in a script that has already been written that you are supposed to color the lines of. You came here as disruptors, but as love disruptors. Many of you listening to this, not all of you, but many of you, in fact we would say the majority of you, are love disruptors. You came here to be ambassadors on behalf of love and consciousness, and that looks different for each of you. Some of you are what we would call justice lawyers. You aren't necessarily the warm and fuzzy loving kind. You aren't running around giving everyone hugs and fairy cakes, but instead you are working on behalf of justice in a way that will allow love and freedom to permeate a group, an individual, perhaps even a whole country, where currently love is being denied or locked down by the systems in that area or the cultural beliefs in that area. So you can be a disruptor of love by, yes, hugs and fairy cakes, that's its own kind of currency. But you can also be, what many of you know, the term love in action. Putting your action, your energy, your wisdom, your intelligence, your heart behind creating the area of the world that you yourself feel focused on or qualified to help within. Bringing to that area more love, more consciousness, more connectivity than you currently see. Perhaps you are helping individuals who, because of the system that they live in, or because of past trauma, or perhaps a little of both, for those two things often collide, you are working to create a scenario, a forum, an environment for them that will allow them to heal and transform and come back to who they are in an all-new way. You are a disruptor of love. Perhaps you are the one in your family who tells the truth, even though some of them don't want to hear it, but you recognize that enough of them do. And this entrenched denial around emotional discussion in your family is something that you can lovingly disrupt. Not in an aggressive way or trying to force everyone to speak the way you do, but with your level of consciousness and understanding, you are able to help soften some of the edges of the family dynamic in a way that permeates, in a way that then has an effect on others. So your mission, so many of you, is simply love. Your mission is simply love. And we can tell some of you are scratching your heads as we say this, because you are thinking, well, hang on a second. How do I have a mission of love if I'm trying to solve X, Y, and Z in my life? Well, it's all about getting you closer every single day to more harmonic connection. The final theme that we gave to Lee about opening yourself, allowing yourself to open to a new level of consciousness, a new level of heart, it is just that. It is the part of you who, when you have lost a loved one that was very deep and meaningful to you, you suddenly find you cry more easily with empathy or release. When an emotional event happens in your life, you get a little more in touch with your feelings and your heart because that person helped open you, helped move you to that point. Well, this is the point we want to make to many of you, for we understand, and we are not judging this, but we are saying there is a syndrome on Earth, particularly at the moment, as more and more of you become aware of, shall we say, some of the distortions or the imbalances within your system. And you are beginning to see how the system is not necessarily coming from a place of wholeness or with humanity's best interests always at heart, or the planet's for that matter. It can put you into a, shall we say, jagged place in yourself. You might go through grief, anger, shock, wanting to fight. You might want to make someone pay for what you are seeing. These are all emotions that you as humans have gone through for a long time, and we would say to you these are emotions that need to release. That is why we spoke about discern. It is important for you to discern inside yourself when you are in an old reaction. Not to judge it. Never judge your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts. That's the fastest way to shut yourself down. Notice them though. Be curious about them. Wonder why they got there if they seem very different to you or not who you want to be. If they seem jarring to your sense of balance or equilibrium, well, when were you first jarred as a human? What acts did you experience in your younger years or perhaps some years past that made you feel imprinted by what you might call negative or difficult emotions on Earth? It's quite normal for many of you who go through a traumatic event to literally have, shall we say, fear or distress, or what some of you label as trauma, as a good overarching word or name for those lower vibration action replays that can happen inside you. It is quite normal to have those feelings slammed into you all of a sudden, and it can take time for you to, shall we say, rebalance yourself and let those feelings gently release. The shock, the sudden collision of the traumatic event, whether it was literally a collision, a car crash, or whether it was some kind of emotional, energetic, or relational car crash in your life that upended your life all of a sudden. It takes time for those shock waves of sudden events to move through your body and for your body to rebalance. But what if we were to tell you that everything that you are in right now that is playing out on Earth, rather than it being wrong, or rather than it being, shall we say, a negative apparition of that which you do not want to see, what if we tell you that this is what you came here for? That you knew that this would be the current outcome on Earth. And we have said this many times over the years in various of our messages. Earth right now, as it looks, could look far, far worse had other turns been taken in recent decades. So those of you who worry about the state of the world or the state of your systems or your governments, we would say to you, by all means, keep an eye on all of that. By all means, if you are someone who is here to play a role in the shifting of those systems, by all means, keep an eye on all of that, but do not keep both eyes on it and do not give your heart to it. You do not put heart consciousness into something that is not generating or using or in touch with heart consciousness by becoming it, becoming consumed by its vibration. Instead, you recognize the vibration that's near you that you think needs to be upgraded, updated, evolved, and you double down on becoming heart consciousness in yourself, because that is the act of evolution and creation that you can affect. So we say this because there are some of you listening who your greatest act in 2023 is going to be unhooking yourself from some of the bondage you find yourself in with the lower vibrations on the planet right now. And for some of you, it's an action replay of times past. It's traumatic to you because it reminds you of other times in other lives where groups or cultures or areas of the world have fallen. So you are in a loop around some of that. There is nothing wrong with that loop, but do not let that loop be the whole truth. Your planet is still, even today, full of potential, not just for itself, but also for humanity to create evolution. The race is not lost on Earth, even though sometimes you are told it is, informed it is. The higher consciousness that is coming into the Earth is beginning to be seen by some of you in the creations that you are seeing appear on the planet, technological and otherwise. But you are also beginning to feel it within yourselves. You see, the lives that you live as human, you have often been told are quite small. They are anything but. When you connect to your consciousness, you connect to the consciousness not just of this planet, but you connect to universal consciousness. That is how we are even able to come through in a message like this. So you are already doing it right now. And if you are feeling activated by our words, or more importantly, our vibration, you are remembering your own universal soul. And that is why you came here. To reactivate that, to become more of that, to embody that, and then to be an emblem of that on the planet, and to be one who helps that spread by simply being an example. And the reason so many of you get a little, shall we say, itchy around this idea of us saying, be here to be an example, you go into your heads about it and you start thinking you are responsible for changing the world, or it's on your shoulders that you need to see the evidence of the fact that you're an example. And you don't. You don't. You are not going to be tracking whether or not you are an example, because you will be so consumed with the vibration that you are living from, and you will be so clear that the vibration you are living from is having an effect on those around you and the planet itself. You will not need to overthink it anymore. Overthinking comes from trauma. When your mind goes into chaos, or when your mind can't stop obsessing over something that is distressing to you, there is an emotion inside your body that is desperately trying to get out, but your mind won't let it leave the body, so it ricochets and replays these thoughts. By the way, this happens to all of you in very small ways all of the time. This doesn't just have to look dramatic or knock you off your feet for 3 weeks. All of you are learning to balance and stabilize your own emotional energy fields, because all of you are affected by each other. So if we were to share with you that 2023 is going to be a year that will have much in it that you have already seen, shall we say, cliff notes of, meaning over the past 3 to 4 years, you have seen certain energies, ideologies, and we will say acts rear their head. Certain people have shown you what their intentions are. This is in your personal life. This is also collective, people on the public stage. And you have seen replays of this, but you are in a, shall we say, period where the sun starts to get stronger from 2023 onwards. And do not interpret that in a purely linear way, because your world is complex. The sun can be out on a day that someone is grieving and is struggling. So the sun getting stronger does not necessarily mean that it washes all the difficulty away. But when we say the sun is getting stronger, we mean it. 2023, the heat goes up when it comes to heart consciousness, higher consciousness, and particularly from the second half of the year, you will notice it coming in. But by the way, it will actually be easier for you to feel between now and April. It will get a little more, shall we say, bombastic from April onwards, because what does heart consciousness do? It irritates those who don't like it. It is confronting for those who want to stamp it out. That's why control exists. Control exists in order to limit your potential and keep something out of your view. Now, you can either get very overly concerned with that and focus all of your attention on what's going on the world stage, or you can recognize you are part of the world stage. It's just they're not reporting on you. Ha! They aren't putting your story in the newspapers, that you had an emotional healing breakthrough that week and you were able to give love and support to somebody else. What a world that would be if those were the headlines. Imagine how quickly everyone's frequency would change, and then you start to see why the current baseline of the world media revolves around control of information, control of people. Again, there are some wonderful sources out there, and you are beginning to see more innovation come in. For it is important to you to hear the news, many of you. It is important for you to know what's going on in the world. But you want to truly know what's going on in the world, not what you're told is going on in the world, or the way you are told it is happening. So, when we say the sun is going to start getting stronger in 2023, we do mean the heat is going up a little bit, but in all ways. So those of you who immediately start to panic that the heat is only going to be bad, notice that historic reaction in yourself. It's far more complex than that. What it can mean for you is you are going to let go of this fear response that you always have. No different to those of you who fear something good is coming. If we were to say to many of you, oh, you are going to have the best week of your life next week, we promise you, most of you, 80% of you, will not just get excited and look forward to it. Most of you will start feeling a little unnerved. The unknown, what does that mean? How do I prepare for it? Can I take it in? Oh, I don't know. What do I do? Do I need to reorganize my schedule? See how busy you can get? Nothing wrong with that. It's part of the human design, and it's beautiful, by the way. For those of us in this group of beings who speak through Lee, who have been incarnate on the planet, we can tell you that it's extraordinary to be human and be alive, which is why we try to remind you not to get seduced into the only narrative of the earth being doom and gloom. And ask yourself, why would someone pump that narrative out? So, when we say to you the sun is getting stronger in 2023, consider it your personal call to action. You can harness these energies, work with these energies, allow them in at your own pace, or you can reject them, deflect them, fight them. You'll see many people doing all kinds of things with it. But when we tell you that you really are moving into the beginning of a new era, which will come with many speed bumps, by the way, we speak collectively there. Most of you who work to maintain as much joy, love, connection, presence, balance as you can, not putting a stamp on you there that you have to achieve that every week, but if you are mindful about including that in your week and inviting that into your week, most of you who will be experiencing and recognizing the importance of how you create vibration in your life, you will generally have a far easier time than most. But it will take you. It will take you putting your face in the sun. It will take you knowing how to let the sun run through your body. And for those of you who are slightly chuckling because you think, well, I haven't seen the sun for weeks and months because of where I live, the sun is inside. The light is inside. Light will find you from inside, but not because it is only in your body, but the connection point to it is buried deep within you. And some of you have been asked to bury it and push it down far too much. So when you connect to spirit and consciousness, the sun comes back into your heart, to your skin, to your bones, to your electrical energy field, and you feel connected once more. So, the last thing we will say to you today is this. Tiny acts of connection are the most powerful gift you can give yourself or someone else. Tiny acts of connection are the most powerful gift you can give yourself or someone else. It stabilizes your frequency and your vibration. Now, some of you have gone through an almighty wallop of a release lately. We know exactly who you are, and we know that it left some of you on the floor, and particularly this last 2 months, some of you have been really clearing out the basement in terms of emotions, thoughts, events, people, places in your life. So you might not feel ready for the sunlight just yet. But if you can even hear our words at this point, you are connecting to what is coming next. And if you let light and connection infuse not only your life, but recognize there are ways that you can create connection in the world and offer it to others, you will become a magnifying force of love on the planet. And guess what? Yes, it's good for everyone else, but it's extraordinary for you. Thus far, it has taken a very long time for human history to get back to a place where this is possible on a planetary level. There have been times, well over 10,000 years ago, where this frequency was available on Earth, but it was in smaller groups and it was not, shall we say, sustained or maintained. But here you are, at a time in evolution where more of this heart energy is coming through and coming in. And by the way, this won't be for everybody. We're not saying it couldn't be, but it won't be for everybody. Just like Lee or we will not be for everybody, and that's how it's supposed to be. Because everybody has a different role, and those of you that we are speaking to, this is your role. You are here with a mission of love. And that doesn't necessarily have to be externally focused. We know there are some of you who don't like humans that much. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not here for humans necessarily. You're here for other energetics on the planet. Many of you are here to work with the land or the creatures on the earth. Some of you are here to work with the unseen. But you are here on a mission of love, most of you listening to this. And so letting that frequency of love move through your system will take away the loneliness, the feeling of separation, the feeling of disconnection. So how do you achieve that? It is as simple as playing your favorite song each day as an act of routine while you are trying to raise your frequency. It is as simple as phoning the friend or chatting to somebody in real time who you know makes your heart feel full. It is as simple as creating those acts for yourself. Love is not something you are waiting to donk you on the head. Love is something you get to create from inside. And there will be times that love will come and beautifully donk you on the head, and you'll be very grateful to that person, that thing, that event. How nice. But why wait? You have access to it inside you, and it's why you are here. It will make your life better, and you will positively influence the lives of others through this. So, if you open to nothing else in 2023, we would say to you, please, I open to love in 2023. I open to a higher octave of love in 2023. I open to experiencing more love in 2023. I open to being an advocate of love in 2023. I open to being an ambassador of love in 2023. I open to love. Because it is your birthright. And we say that not from your birth on earth, but from your universal birth, the birth of your soul. Good. A pleasure to be with all of you in peace and in deep love and reverence to every one of you. Go steady with those hearts of yours. They are powerful vessels. And some of you are working to rebalance and ground your heart right now. It's important work. So give it the time it deserves. In peace and in love to all as you venture towards the calendar year of 2023, a year of magnificent transformation. So for any of you who feel like you went quite far out in that message, that transmission, just invite yourself gently back to your body, this beautiful physical body of yours, this incredible vehicle that lets your consciousness exist. You are safe to return to the earth. So one thing the Z's always say is, don't worry if you fall asleep when the channeling happens, because it does. A lot of people, I'm always surprised how many people say they just fall asleep. You're taking in the message at another level. They always say that even though their words can be like a very useful handrail to what you are using the channeling for, to open in yourself, the vibration is the energy of remembering. And so many people have a strong energetic reaction with the channeling. Equally, don't worry if you don't. Don't worry if you sat there going, I don't know what this is. Don't worry. If you're still watching now, there's maybe something in it for you. But the thing I really like about channeling, and I notice about channeling over the years, is to me, it just holds a space for us to remember our intuition and our bigger connection. It's not about the Z's, it's not about me. It's about what it does for you and how it reconnects you to something a bit bigger or something a bit wider than yourself or your mind thinks of you right now. So often when listening to channeling, you can get like aha moments or visions, and that's really what it's about. So I thank you all for joining me. There's a whole team of us here doing and bringing this to you. So from all of us, from me and my team, we wish you all a beautiful end of the year. This is a really powerful day, the day of the solstice. So for those of you who are live, thank you for being with us live and choosing to take this time to connect with us. It's been beautiful to see so many of you come from all over the planet. I like this mission of love and open to love, if nothing else, in 2023. It's such an ephemeral energy from our human perspective, and yet for me, the evidence of love that I get to see and experience in people all of the time, to me, is the gold of the earth in that way. So let's value it, let's create it, let's become it, let's invite and allow it in. So I do hope that something that came through today can help you on your path. And for those of you who want to take a deeper dive with me and with the Z's and with my team, and you want to really focus on 2023, we will be starting Rebirth on January 16th. And there's a whole host of information about what Rebirth includes. But one of my favorite parts of it, of course, is always the community of souls who join us. We had a little over 5,000 people last year, so it's a really potent community container. So if you feel to join us, we would love to welcome you in Rebirth. If not, thank you for being here today, and I will always be offering my monthly video energy updates where for about 25-30 minutes I go through the themes that I've been given by the Z's for that month, and on January 1st the next one will appear. So do subscribe on YouTube for the videos I put out every week, and we are going to play you out with a song from the album that we just released called Timelines. The song is called Light Will Find You. Myself and Devor Bozique create soul-based music. So if you've never heard our music, this is one of those songs, and you can find all of that at leeharrismusic.com. So we'll put links and all of the headlines underneath the video. If you're live, give us a moment to get all that there. But if you're watching in the future, it should be there now. Lots of love to you and your heart and your family and your people for 2023. Thanks for tuning in.